All right, we are over here at one of our stationary sanders. This machine is a combination belt and disc sander. We're going to take a look at the features on this machine, how it works, and how to be safe on it. Before we get into that stuff, the primary purpose of this machine is to shape and form parts. So what that means is that you are doing the majority of your work elsewhere in the shop. Maybe at the bandsaw, maybe at the scroll saw, potentially in a later class when you take Woods 2, at the table saw. You're getting your pieces ready on those machines, removing the bulk of the material there, and then you're coming to the sander to just tune them up, to shape them down to their final positioning, okay? The sander is going to give you a much cleaner edge generally than any of the saws are. And so that's why we do our sawing first, and then we come to the sander to shape and form those parts exactly the way that we want them. Okay, looking first at the belt sander portion of this machine. We have a couple of main features. Obviously, we have our belt right here. It's an abrasive belt. You can tell by the arrow that when we turn this machine on, it's going to rotate down, and that is going to allow us to utilize the table here to support our workpiece. So we've got our abrasive belt right here. We have our table here. The table is adjustable. There is a handle right over here to the side that allows us to unlock and change the angle of this table. Most of the work that you do, we're going to want this at a perfect 90-degree angle. We'll take a look at how to make that adjustment in a later video. Now, the belt sander does have one guard on it. It's located right up here at the top of the belt, where the belt comes over the top roller and starts moving down towards the table. You can see it says do not remove this guard, and generally we want that guard in place. However, once in a while we actually will remove this guard, exposing that upper drum so that we can sand some interior parts. Now, we do have a spindle sander in our shop that we use primarily for that, so this would be an exception, and I don't want you doing that without talking to me about doing it first. Next, we have to tension the belt on the machine here. And so the tension and the alignment of the belt is controlled by this knob right here and this handle on the other side. If I rotate this handle counterclockwise, you can see that the belt is now very loose, running over the upper and lower drums. In order to tighten that, I've got to make sure that this handle is rotated all the way clockwise. And again, that handle is located right around the corner here on the left side of the machine. With it rotated clockwise, you can see the belt is much tighter. Now, I can use this knob on the right side to adjust the alignment of the belt on this metal backing. The platen is the flat metal surface behind the belt right here that when we press our workpiece against the abrasive as it's moving, it provides a flat surface, giving us a nice clean edge. We can adjust the location of the belt on the platen using this knob on the right-hand side. However, you can only adjust that positioning with the machine running and the dust collector turned on. So I will show you that in a later video. The other thing you need to know about our belt sander is that it can be oriented either vertically or horizontally. Most of the work we do in our shop is going to happen with the belt in the vertical position. However, if you need to lay it down into a horizontal position, that can be done by loosening this handle right here under the right end of the table. With that loosened, I can easily lay down the belt into a horizontal position, and then I can lock it back off so that it's stable while I'm performing my sanding operations. Moving around the right side of the machine to the disc sander, we see a couple of the same features as the belt sander. We've got our abrasive mounted here. We have a table surface here. Now, the disc is going to rotate counterclockwise, as evidenced by the rotation arrow mounted on the top of the machine. So what that means is that if we were to draw a line down the center of the disc, the right half of the disc is rotating up away from the table, and the left half of the disc is rotating down towards the table. This means that we can only use the left side of the disc when it's in operation. If we try to use the right side, it's possible for our workpiece to get snagged and thrown by the machine. It also will just send an excessive amount of dust into the air, and we don't need that in our shop. So we're only going to use the left side of the disc. Just like with the belt sander, the table on the disc sander can be adjusted to various angles. Again, most of your work will happen at a perfect 90-degree angle. To change the angle on this table, there is a knob on either side of the table, and both of these need to be loosened in order to make an adjustment to the table angle. A couple extra items that go along with the stationary sander. Located around on the back side, we have two things. The first thing we have is a square, and we're going to use this when we do our setup to make sure that the table is perfectly square to the belt. So this lives right here on the back of the machine. The other thing back here is this gigantic eraser, and we're going to use this to clean out the abrasives when we're finished sanding. That's going to happen with the machine running. So when we look at the operation of this machine, I'll show you how we're going to use the eraser. We also have a tool that we use at the sander called a miter gauge. The miter gauge for the sander actually lives right behind it on the table for the router. And what a miter gauge is it's this T-shaped piece, and I can easily set this to any angle that I want, and I can lock it into place, and this will give me a consistent reference for sanding my pieces to a specific size. The miter gauge mounts into the slot in the table, and it works at both the belt sander and the disc sander. And then I can hold my workpiece tight against the face of the miter gauge and move it back and forth to achieve a repeatable angle. Now, most of our work, again, tends to be at 90-degree angles, especially in this class. So I can set my miter gauge to 90 degrees, hold my workpiece tight against it, and run it back and forth along the belt to get a nice square edge. I could also clamp a straight edge or a ruler of some kind onto the table at a certain angle to help get a straight and consistent result. Lastly, the power control for the sander is located right on the front of the machine. It's just a simple on and off light switch style switch. Again, the machine will not operate with the dust collector turned off, so I can't demonstrate that for you right now.